Hey folks, I'd like to speak about assessments based on symmetry today, or maybe symmetry and performance, or symmetry and pathology, symmetry and dysfunction, symmetry and pain. I don't know. I'd like to speak about symmetry versus asymmetry in our profession. Are you still assessing based on symmetry? Are you still looking at clavicle levels, scapular levels, ASIS, PSIS levels, pelvic tilt, sacral torsion? Are you still assessing based on the idea that we should be bilaterally symmetrical or even, or that we should exhibit some sort of anterior-posterior pseudo-symmetry or balance, or there should be an arbitrary midline, a plumb line that we drop through our body and it should fall in a certain distribution? And if so, why? And I don't want to bog this down with a bunch of evidence. There's great evidence against symmetrical assessment. There's good anecdotal evidence for it. Well, I treated this person, I assessed based on symmetry, I did my patented laser level theory, or patented laser level assessment. That was one I was recently exposed to again, where they set up a grid and you have a projected laser, and the person stands in front of it, and you do a snapshot, you show them, oh, look at this on the grid, you're asymmetrical, your left earlobe is higher than your right by half of a centimeter, this is a problem. And they say that this is the basis for, God, I don't know, pick your poison. Headaches, TMJ, occipital neuralgia, headaches again, breathing disorders, whatever the hell that means, or scoliosis. That was redundant. I think I'm just pulling pathologies out of my ass now. Great. Sciatica, that's the word I was looking for, sciatica. And they say, oh, this is the reason for that. You have this irregularity, which is actually a regularity, and as a result, you're going to have problems here. You're going to have Achilles tendonitis, or you're going to have knee pain. You're going to be at a greater risk of injury for your MCL, whatever it might be. And it's not. The evidence doesn't seem to back that. But let's just take a critical thought approach. Let's just stop and do that. Okay? How many of us are asymmetrical in our imaging? I mean, I have had so many images of myself, and prior to a rod in my leg, prior to any breaks, any of my other older images, and trust me, I have a ton of them on file, I'm asymmetrical. I was talking to an anthropologist patient of mine recently, and we were talking about bones, as you do, because that's totally normal. And we were talking about symmetry in skeletons. And I was saying that at this point in my career, I think I've seen well over 100 cadavers. And to my knowledge, I've never seen one where the skeleton appeared symmetrical if I was able to look at it in that way. I've never seen a single one. And I asked her, I was like, how often have you ever seen a symmetrical specimen? She's like, still haven't. Basically retired at this point, still haven't. It's normal to be asymmetrical. It's more abnormal to be symmetrical, to the point that it's such an outlier to find full symmetry that I actually don't think I know a single person who's done it. And as you're already aware, this is a thing that comes up in regular conversation for me because I'm super normal. And so when we're assessing, why would we assess for that? Why would we assess for something that's so rare, it's basically unheard of among experts? Why would we say you should be even from side to side? We can look at our extreme examples. We can look at our badminton players and our tennis players. We can look at hockey players. We can look at baseball players. We can look at people who regularly put their body through relative extremes of physical activity in an ipsilateral manner. I throw right-handed. I catch left-handed. I shoot left. I golf right. I golf really badly right. Tennis players, fencers often have one leg that's larger than the other. I remember seeing a fencer whose whose upper leg circumference was more than 3/4 of an inch larger than their other leg. So their lunge leg was visibly larger. Were they in pain? No. Were they neuro-optimized and physiologically optimized? Yes. They were optimized for the demand of their lifestyle, of their daily activity, of their sport. And as a result, they are now further asymmetrical than average. And that's cool. That's normal for them. So instead of looking at symmetry, I mean, it would be a stupid video if all I said was, haha, we're all dumb for doing this. And I mean, I include myself in that because I still find myself looking at symmetry now and again, and I know better. Let's look at neuro-optimization. So instead of me just criticizing, how about a solution? Neuro-optimization, the idea that we encourage people to have optimal control over their meat. Our meat, our physical selves. To the point where there is less potential for pain warning based on ascience, based on ignorance of physical capacity in terms of ranges of motion, resistance levels through range, and rates of acceleration, deceleration capacity through resistance and range. And so we train this person to move better and feel better, and not to aim for symmetry, which is theoretically all but physiologically impossible. That would explain a lot of the, well, I treat based on symmetry and the person gets better. Well, no, you treated based on symmetry, but the exercises you gave were exploratory to movement as well. The person wasn't used to lifting their arm straight overhead. And you said, oh, well, this shoulder is higher than this one. And so I'm going to have you start working on shrugging this one and pushing this one down, and have you work on both at once and trying to move them together. Well, ultimately, what you're also doing is having that person explore ranges of motion. You start having them work on overhead ranges and trying to really, really upwardly translate that scapulocoastal complex on the thoracic cage. And they're going to start feeling better as they get more comfortable with it. And their mid-ranges, of course, that the pain in there drops down even further. And maybe the headaches reduce, and maybe the TMJ dysfunction drops off. And it wasn't necessarily about them being symmetrical. It might have been just about them exploring and getting better at exploring that, about increasing their movement intelligence. Increasing their movement intelligence. I don't know if I love that term, but I think it's a decent term for that. And yeah, maybe symmetry is not the answer. Maybe neuro-optimization is where we should start pushing that. Maybe our assessment should reflect that. I mean, I saw a post from Greg Lehman recently on a relative dearth of studies in exercise specificity. And he's right. The evidence for trying to create specific rehab rather than general movement really isn't all that great yet. There's not a huge pool of study on it. We're kind of behind the times on that. But maybe exploring neuro-optimization for that person, maybe exploring what's meaningful for them, maybe that's what matters the most for them. And it's not about objective symmetry. It's about subjective capacity and subjective efficacy. So yeah, my thoughts. My verbal diarrhea for the day. Thanks kindly.